What's going on, family? It's your brother Lawrence here with another episode of Watch God Work, where we look to give you inspiration and practical wisdom to live a good life, a godly life. Y'all, today's we're gonna hop into some things because this past weekend has been a bit real. If you follow me on Instagram at Adjah_L, or have you just been part of the Watch God Work family for some time, the past couple months have been rough on a personal level. In terms of just the health and well-being of loved ones. More recently, this past weekend, my aunt had passed away, prayer warrior, anchored to family, the queen of hospitality and prayer and care. And so that's been difficult. And preceding that had been just a real kind of nearly severe fatal issue with a really close loved one sibling, and navigating that since August. I'm saying all that to say today I want to talk a bit about, how my friends, my village held me down. And I think practically the value for everyone listening and watching this is going to be making sure that you are in a position to be cared for well when these things happen. I don't say if these things will happen, when these things will happen. And again, I've talked about this in my prior work with Family Dinner and actively how important it is to make sure that you're well covered. The one thing I do say is that God cares for you through people. But you have to put yourself in a position to be cared for. And so this is what I only even talked about tactically. This is not going to be exhaustive. I'm going to give some sort of kind of things that I realize on now in retrospect, how that kind of made sure that I was able to be cared for well. And even imperfectly, there's a lot of things that I didn't do well. I want to be able to share some information that I think will help you to make sure that you're set up in the right position, or whether you're set up well just in case crisis happens, but ultimately that those that you care about are set up well, and that there's some important information that you have if you've never been through this. I am not a medical professional in the sense, and there's probably people who have a little more information from a hospital perspective, but I will say that there's some just universal things that I realized, even in recognizing what happened with my aunt and the thing that was going on with my sibling. I think it's important for you to understand this. And so, number one, I just want to first start up by saying I have the best friends in the world. I'm not fighting with y'all. I have the best friends in the world. Best friends in the world. So August, when this all happened, a couple of things. Now you can imagine someone's dealing with a near fatal situation. You have to kind of drop everything. If some of you guys are caretakers, or you had a loved one, a friend going through this, your world stops, right? And so what's important for you at that time is making sure you don't need to think about anybody else. The number one thing you're trying to do is make sure that you're present for your friends and your family, whoever is kind of like the key person of being cared for at that time. So you do that. But I realized in this time, there's important things that you need to have in place in case of crisis. Now, I'm not going to go through my 5C framework. I'll talk about 5C framework in a separate video, but most of people's issues with relationships often are where people fall short of expectations, often that they don't even know exist, right? And so that's a big framework. But let's talk about crisis for today. I want to make sure we're clear. And so one of the big things I realized, especially in seeing this, is that who is going to be making decisions on your behalf? Now, if you are married, that's one thing. Typically, when you're married, then your spouse is the one making medical decisions on your behalf. And again, if you're talking about a near-death situation or post, there's situations in your will, your executor who actually does that. Again, you should, particularly if you want to go deep in that, speaking to a lawyer to help you set that up. I do have a will. We'll talk about that later. But typically, when something drastic happens and they get information, they're looking to the next of kin. Right? Next of kin to make decisions. And so one of the things that's so important, I think, for everybody is just recognizing that when these things happen, when things hit the fan, if you're not necessarily married and you are in this position, who is the person that you would like to be making decisions on your behalf? Who is that person? Right? Who is the person that you trust to make these decisions? I think it's very important to think about that. And once you make that clear, put it in writing, put it in some sort of formal form, and then ultimately also put this, share that and have that conversation with that person. If it's a sibling, if it's another person, I think it's important at this stage of life, particularly plus 30, even who are the people who are going to be making these decisions? Again, legally, often it goes to next of kin. But if you don't have living or that relationship, or you believe that there's somebody else you'd like to make that decision on your behalf and you're not married, please Please have a plan in place in terms of what decisions that you would like to have happen. And again, I hope that ultimately all of us have wills. Please, 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 please outline what you would like to happen. But more practically, we want to keep going. Communication. When this was all going on, the last thing that you need to be worried about, though you want to get received care, is managing the communication in the inbound. And if you have any kind of level of relationship depth or breadth, it is very difficult to manage, both from a professional perspective and also personal perspective. And so I would strongly recommend, if you have somebody in your core friend group who could be the person that you speak to, and they could be responsible for communicating to other people. I want to give a big shout out to both all of my friends. Angelica, member of Watch God Work, she was she kind of was just like, Lawrence, you go over there. I want to make sure that I reach out to just the family and community. She did that. She was willing to communicate that and communicate and keep people updated. Right. And so that, again, was a blessing, right? That wasn't something that had to be so coordinated, that she had the presence of mind to say, hey, let me take care of that. But even on a personal level, right, I think it's important for you to have someone, if that is not you, and you can't expect that every situation of crisis, you will be in a position to manage communications. Because part of the reason why communications are important is because now it puts people in a position that they know how to respond. There are all so many friends that I did not get to reach out to, right? Or I did not get to connect with. I tried to do it immediately. Once things happen, I hit like at least five. And then I hit my boys prayer group, I hit my core guys, and then I hit a few other people. And then that was pretty much it. And then outside of that, I just managed what was inbound. Again, the big takeaway, and I think this thing is going to be practically valuable for you, is having somebody professionally, and or if it's one person, be the point of contact who sends some sort of update or note, a text message, an email to people. Set up a WhatsApp group with your friends, your people. Just set up a WhatsApp group. You can send text messages, have your little memes and GIFs and articles, right? But that also sets you up that they're all in one place. So if something hits the fan, right, all you can do is hit one person and they can manage communications from this one WhatsApp group. I'm telling you, pro tip, please, please, please think about that. Do that. Another thing, who has your address? You would be surprised how many people, their friends don't know their actual home or mailing address, right? And so who has your address? Who has your keys? What if somebody needs to get there, or somebody wants to just come up to make sure that you're good, they can take care of things? If you're out of state, if you have to travel somewhere, maybe someone who can come and clean up, could help cook things. You would be amazed about how practical that is. But even beyond even having access to your place, and that's all another thing in case of emergency. Also, just to send meals. A shout out to my family, shout out to my village, shout out to my people who held me down and sent meals. Without even asking, they got the address, they would send meals, right? And so if that's something that when those things are happening, you're not even thinking about food. You're not thinking about like, I need to cook this. The thing you're trying to think of, especially if you have to go to a hospital, you're trying to make hours and then get back in time, go back and forth. Someone just releasing the load and knowing where you are, whether you're staying in a hotel, where for some period I was, or going back home, making sure that your friends or your core or your prayer group and community, I'll talk about that prayer group piece, or community knows where you live. It makes it easier for them to send you meat. So if there's any kind of preferences, something that somebody at least knows, like I'm allergic to something, I can't have this, or hey, this would be my go-to meal. Let your people know, put a plan in place for you to do that. And again, I would say if you want to keep this extra simple, it could just be a WhatsApp group with your core people and just say, hey, I'm just creating this just in case emergencies things happen. Plus, y'all should know each other anyway. If you're married and you probably have some sort of group of kind of like bridesmaids or groomsmen, or if you don't, you should probably have some group, they know you. You should all be connected in some way. So WhatsApp group will make it easier. And then when meals and things happen, people know your address. And so they're not fumbling when they want to show up for you, but they don't have the basic information. Again, I'm saying that this is such a big recommendation. It was a lifesaver for me, being able to sometimes have to come back from the other city that I was in to make sure that my loved one was good. And then getting back late and then knowing that a meal was on the way. I didn't have to worry about that. Your core should have this information. And there should at least be one person where the expectation if something happens, I'm going to be connecting with you and you connect with everyone else and they know to reach out to you and so on, just in case you need updates and the like. And that person who reaches out, especially if it's a broader group or community, letting them know, giving them information generally, that again, you want to minimize all that you have to do and you want to at least direct that to, your loved one or whoever needs the care at the time. Last piece is about prayer. And again, I'm not giving exhaustive. We're probably going to do another video episode on just the keys, more of the extensive, comprehensive keys. But this last piece, prayer. And this, I think, often exposes a gap for many people, especially if you're not already in a faith community. If you're someone who loves God and you're not necessarily rooted in the community, you don't fully understand how important those prayers and having a group of people who are committed and praying. I'm a part of a group of brothers, a part of a group that helped steward over the past couple of years. And we get together quarterly and I help lead that group. But I think now more than ever, if you're not a part of a group, I think it's important for you to be open to finding one. And I think that's something that's an invitation I think that even us here is going to start to do, to put people in cohorts as we have done in years past. But when that happens and you actually know that there's a group who's praying for you, fasting for you, right? 3 to 5 people, 7 people that you have connected to just to connect to pray on a consistent basis, right? But they're dedicated to making sure that you're well and covering you in prayer. When you receive individual prayers from people, they send you notes and send you voice notes. I've received voice note prayers that I played in front of my family as we were sitting in hospital rooms, sitting in hotel rooms, listening to friends, loved ones, people pray. Shout out to my people. Shout out to the Watch God Work family who send prayers recorded. Think about that. When you're going through it and maybe you don't fully understand and recognize the power of hearing that prayer, but there's certain prayers that it points you to the peace of God and gives you release. Part of practically a way to put yourself in a position to receive that is to be a part of a group or be a part of assembling group. And if you're like, hey, I'm not a part of faith community who can help me or be a part of that, I think that's something that I think we would want to be able to help you with or be a part of some sort of cohort of people, right, who actually are committed to praying. You gather at least bi-weekly to pray together, to know what's going on in each other's lives, and then set the expectation of something hits the fan. These people will be praying for you, and they're probably also part of the people who will be caring for you, sending meals. I mean, sometimes when people think about this faith thing and walking, and living a godly life, we think of it so individually. But God in and of himself is a community in and of himself. Father, Son, Holy Spirit. There's nothing he did individually of the 3 persons of the Godhead. And similarly, there's nothing that we could endure or do or we're called to do on our own. On our own without even the guidance of God. And often God guides and gives us a hand of care through people. We even see when crisis and tragedies happen somehow in this country, which separates church and state and is all about and it's not one God. We all find the time to pray then. So how much more even for you when you find yourself in those circumstances, just for somebody to pause and to pray and to actually lift up words on your behalf, on your family's behalf, and hear that. That is something that I can't even fully put to words, but I think people put it to words in the prayers that they give to you. So I think it's practical to be a part of a prayer group, to be a part of some sort of faith cohort or community that will be in a position to care for you when, it's not if, when these things happen. I'm just saying that wherever that is, wherever you find that, don't just rely upon that one person. Having a community of people, you won't understand even the benefit until you experience the love and care that comes from people covering you during that time. And so I just want to give a shout out to so many people. I'm going to give a shout out to the whole Watch God Work community and brothers and sisters who have been a part of the show, who are part of our family, who covered me during that time. I want to thank all of you who sent notes, even on the Instagram when I sent an update and let people know about the circumstances. God bless you. Thank you for covering me. But I want this to be an opportunity where people could actually be in a better position to navigate those things when they happen. Some things you can't prepare for, but there are things that we can prepare for. And so I would love you to do that. Again, know that this is not exhaustive. Know that there's other things and other videos videos I'll probably do, but hopefully this gets you off on a start to put yourself in a position, if crisis happens and when it happens, to make sure that you're well cared for by God and the people he's putting around you. So hopefully that helps. Hope you find a benefit. Again, if you found any type of wisdom from this, please share this with someone. Definitely send a review, drop a comment, and share this. And definitely subscribe if you're not already a part of the family. Again, our goal is to use inspiration and practical wisdom to live a good life, which we believe is a godly life. And I hope that this was helpful along your journey as well. Love y'all. Speak to y'all soon. Take care. Bye-bye.